Our story begins not with people, but with the planet itself. Billions of years ago, Earth was a very different place. It was a world of fire and water, with a sky unlike the one we know today. In the warm, shallow oceans, something truly remarkable happened. Tiny, simple life forms appeared, no more than single cells. These were the very first inhabitants of our world, the great-great-grandparents of every living thing that has ever existed since. For millions and millions of years, these simple organisms were all there was. They slowly changed, adapting to their watery home, becoming more complex over an immense stretch of time. From these humble beginnings, a magnificent tree of life began to grow. Its branches stretched out, creating an astonishing variety of creatures. Some developed fins and gills, becoming the first fish that swam in the ancient seas. Others grew legs and lungs, venturing out onto the dry land. This great explosion of life gave us insects, reptiles, and eventually, the mammals. We are part of this grand, sprawling family. If you look closely at the animal kingdom, you can see the connections. We share so much with our fellow creatures, from the basic structure of our bodies to the very air we breathe. It is a humbling thought to know we are just one small twig on this immense and ancient tree. Humans, or Homo sapiens, are a type of mammal known as a primate. This group also includes monkeys and apes, like chimpanzees and gorillas. Our connection to them is not just a passing resemblance, it is written in our very bones and our blood. Millions of years ago, our ancestors and the ancestors of modern apes were one and the same. They lived in the vast forests of Africa, moving through the trees. But as the world changed, so did they. Some of these primates began to spend more time on the ground. This was a critical step, a moment that would set our distant relatives on a completely new path, one that would eventually lead to us. This journey from the trees to the ground was not a quick one. It took countless generations. Over this long period, these early hominids, our distant human-like ancestors, began to change in profound ways. Perhaps the most significant change was that they started to walk upright on two legs. This freed up their hands to do other things, to carry food, to hold their young, and eventually to make tools. This simple act of standing tall was a revolutionary moment in the history of life on Earth. It was the first sign of a new kind of intelligence, a new way of interacting with the world that would come to define the human story. So, who were these first true humans? They were not like us, not exactly. Scientists have found the bones of many different types of early humans, each with its own name, like Homo habilis, or handyman, and Homo erectus, upright man. These ancestors lived in Africa between 1 and 2 million years ago. They were shorter than we are today, with smaller brains and more prominent ape-like faces. But they were unmistakably on the human branch of the family tree. They walked the earth, looked at the horizon, and began to think in ways that no animal had ever thought before. They were the pioneers of the human spirit. These early humans lived on the vast, open plains of Africa, known as the savanna. This was a world filled with challenges and opportunities. Giant herds of animals roamed the grasslands, from elephants to enormous antelope. But there were also fearsome predators, like saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas. Our ancestors had to be incredibly resourceful to survive in this environment. They couldn't rely on sharp claws or incredible speed. Instead, they had to rely on their wits and their ability to work together. The African savanna was the crucible in which the human character was forged, a place of danger that demanded cleverness and cooperation. Their homes were not permanent structures like the houses we know. Early humans were nomadic, meaning they moved from place to place, following the seasons and the herds of animals they hunted. They might find shelter for the night in a cave or under a rocky overhang, offering protection from the wind and predators. These places were temporary campsites, bases from which they would explore their territory in search of food and water. We can still find traces of their existence in these ancient shelters today. The scattered remains of their meals and the simple tools they left behind, telling a silent story of their daily lives. It is important to remember that for most of our history, there was not just one type of human on the planet. Several different human species often lived at the same time, sometimes even in the same regions. Imagine a world where we were not the only people. There were the Neanderthals in Europe and Asia, who were robust and adapted to the cold. There were the Denisovans, who we know about from just a few small bones. The story of humanity is not a single straight line, but a complex and branching bush, with many different relatives who have since vanished, leaving only us, Homo sapiens, to carry the torch forward. What made these early humans so special? One of the most important answers is their ability to make and use tools. At first, these were very simple. Just one stone used to sharpen another, creating a crude cutting edge. We call these older one tools. While it may not look like much, this was a monumental leap in thinking. For the first time, a creature was not just using an object it found, like a stick or a rock, but was shaping an object to suit a specific purpose. This simple stone chopper allowed them to do things no other animal could, like cutting meat from a carcass or breaking open bones to get to the nutritious marrow inside. Then came an even greater discovery, the control of fire. We are not sure exactly when or how it first happened. Perhaps it was a lightning strike that set a bush ablaze, and a brave human decided to keep the flame alive. Whatever the origin, fire changed everything. It provided warmth on cold nights and light in the darkness. It kept dangerous predators at a distance, making their campsites much safer. And crucially, it allowed them to cook their food. Cooking made food easier to chew and digest, unlocking more energy and nutrients. This extra energy may have been vital for fueling the growth of their increasingly large and complex brains. However, tools and fire were not their only advantages. Early humans were social creatures. They lived and traveled in small, close-knit groups, much like a family. This cooperation was essential for survival. Working together, they could hunt animals larger than themselves or defend their group from predators. They shared food with one another, ensuring that everyone, even the young and the old, had something to eat. Within these groups, they could also share knowledge. An older, more experienced individual could teach a younger one how to make a better tool or where to find the best water source. This sharing of information was a powerful form of inheritance. In these small communities, the beginnings of language surely started to form. They may have begun with simple gestures and sounds to communicate basic ideas: danger, food, water. Over thousands of years, this would have slowly developed into a more complex system of communication. The ability to speak and share detailed thoughts would have been a tremendous advantage. It allowed for better planning, stronger social bonds, and the passing down of stories and traditions. It was in these small, chattering groups, huddled around a fire, that the foundations of human culture and society were laid down. For a very long time, humans lived only in Africa. But our species, Homo sapiens, is a restless one, driven by curiosity and the need for new resources. Around 60,000 to 70,000 years ago, small groups of modern humans began a great journey out of Africa. This was not a single organized migration, but a slow expansion, generation by generation, into new lands. They first moved into Asia, then spread eastwards towards Australia and northwards into Europe. It was an incredible feat, taking them across vast deserts, over towering mountains, and through dense, unfamiliar forests. They adapted to every new environment they encountered. This global journey was made possible by their intelligence and adaptability. As they moved into the colder climates of Europe and Northern Asia, they learned to make warmer clothing from animal skins and to hunt Ice Age giants like the woolly mammoth and the woolly rhinoceros. They built more sophisticated shelters to protect themselves from the brutal winters. Eventually, they crossed a land bridge that once connected Asia to North America, and from there, they spread all the way down to the southern tip of South America. Within just a few tens of thousands of years, our ancestors had populated almost every corner of the planet. By studying these first people, we are really studying ourselves. Their story is our story. The challenges they faced and the solutions they found have shaped who we are today. Our desire to explore, our ability to innovate, and our fundamental need for community all have their roots in this deep past. The bones and tools they left behind are like clues in the greatest detective story of all time, the story of where we came from. By piecing together this evidence, scientists help us understand the long and difficult journey that led to the world we now inhabit. Learning about our shared origins is incredibly important. It reminds us that no matter where we live or what we look like, we all belong to one human family. We all share ancestors who looked up at the same stars and huddled around the same kinds of fires. They survived because they worked together, because they were clever, and because they were adaptable. Understanding this shared heritage helps us to see the deep connections between all people. It is a story of survival, of innovation, and of a journey that eventually took one species from the African savanna to every continent on Earth.